Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Ask Us Anything video. I am Sarah Koegler, a transformation partner at The Ready. I'm here with my colleague and friend Alastair, who's also a transformation partner. And we love hearing from our newsletter subscribers. We have a great question to talk through with you today. I'm going to read it and we'll get started. Here's the question. How can we stop work that feels urgent from overwhelming the work that's most important? Alastair is going to get us started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. A couple thoughts here. The first one, sort of as always, really is do some kind of retrospective to understand what's going on. So when you think about things like urgency, feeling frantic, work that feels important getting put aside, there can be a lot going on in terms of what's causing that. And so having a conversation about, why do we feel frantic and urgent? Where are the pressures coming from? Why are we struggling to get out of this pattern? As well as what are the effects of this? What's it costing us? And what do we want to do about it? Can be really important. In terms of things to try, one of the big things I would say is 90-day outcomes. And so that basically is as a team saying, what's the most important 3 to 5 things we need to have accomplished, 90 days from today. And we are going to do everything we can to create and protect space for those particular pieces of work, which can be easier than just generally trying to make more space. Related to that would be strategic trade-offs or what we call even overstatements. And so these are a way of articulating what are the tough trade-offs we need to make in order to be successful. Generally, the useful form of that is X even over Y, where each side is a good thing. So you could have quality even over speed, or speed even over quality, depending on your strategy and your context. And the idea is if we can have both, we will. But if we have to um, prioritize one over the other, this is the decision we're going to make, and that can make it easier to make the decision of prioritizing the important, if possibly less urgent work in the heat of the moment, so to speak. And then the last thing is something called the Eisenhower Matrix, which can be a really helpful tool for individuals and teams to decide how to spend their time. And so the idea of this, classic 2 by 2, where on the top you have urgent and not urgent, on the side you have important and not important. So the idea is if there's something that is feeling urgent or that's landed on your plate or that you're feeling sort of frantic about, is it important and urgent? If so, great, do it right now. Is it not important but urgent? Then it might be something to not do or to delegate to someone who has more capacity or something like that. And obviously, if it's not urgent and not important, you don't need to do it at all. And if it's important but not urgent, then you need to protect, schedule, create the time to make sure you get it done, even in the face of urgent work. So that can be a helpful way not to kind of get distracted by everything that's urgent, even when a lot of that might be things that aren't important. Sarah, what do you think?
You made me think of two things. One, I love that you started with retrospecting. So generally, if you're a team member and you're feeling like urgency or franticness is the game of the day, how do you actually raise your hand and encourage the team to pause long enough to notice that? First of all, sometimes we feel things in our bodies a lot sooner than they make it to our heads, or vice versa. And so if you're feeling it, sometimes even just raising your hand and noticing it and creating a space for others to talk about what's happening can be a shift in itself. But you also talked, Alistair, about identifying the impacts. That's another thing we don't always think about. We have a culture of busyness, and often busyness gets replaced for productivity or success in the workplace if it's just part of the culture or if it's what it looks like to be a good worker here. So, actually saying, let's talk about the impacts of that. How does that impact our ability to think? How does that impact our ability to build relationships? How does that impact our ability to sense the sky and understand what's happening around us? You're not going to get any of that without a pause. So I love that you started with retrospective. Another connection I'm making is you talked about some pieces of actually being in an adaptive strategy rhythm, is the way I'm thinking about it. It did make me think more broadly about a team being in committing to a strategy rhythm, an adaptive strategy rhythm, which you've heard us talk about in these calls before, can be a really helpful way for you to be honest with each other as a team about, are we really doing the work that we need to do to get to that set of short-term outcomes that we've set. So I really encourage folks to lean into that strategy rhythm, not only as a way to plan, but then as a way to continue to hold yourself accountable. One concrete application of that I've done with some teams before is we've taken a look at our short-term outcomes. So say we're in, the first couple of weeks of a quarterly sprint, we'll pause and say, let's lay down on the table what are all of the projects that are currently happening right now, and let's sort them. But just saying, what are the things that are absolutely must do's in order to meet these outcomes? That's all we're committing to. Let's take everything else and put it in the backlog. Let's kill some darlings, as I've heard some of our friends at the Ready say, things that we want to do because of whatever reason we feel committed to them. It's not a bad thing, but how can we be honest with each other as teammates that these are not the most critical work to meet our outcomes, and we'll pull them over out of the backlog if we have time for them.
Awesome. Yeah, some good points there, as always. Well, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear what you think, what you try, and we look forward to the next question.